again, when I came out with the exponential age in 2020, people thought I was nuts. I'm like, this is going to be the fastest growth of technology in all human history. It's going to be the largest change we will ever go through as a species in the shortest period of time. This video is really about why you've got 6 years left to make as much money as possible before everything we kind of understand about economics, markets, business falls apart. And I can't see beyond that, so I call it the economic singularity. What the am I talking about here? I'm talking about the magic formula for GDP growth.
The world is changing, and so are the immense opportunities available to everyone who can recognize the importance of this period and what's coming. This has been Real Vision founder and CEO Raoul Pal's message to investors for the past year or so. According to Pal, the world will change completely in 2030 as a result of what he describes as the exponential age, or the economic singularity, which he believes will be brought on by high-tech innovations, changing and disrupting every aspect of our lives at dazzling speed within the next 6 years. While some sound money advocates are bracing for the total collapse of the global monetary system, Raoul Pal has a different perspective. He argues that the next phase of our monetary system is already being developed, allowing governments to buy more time and ensure a smooth transition. Pal's exponential age thesis hinges on rapid technological advancements, particularly in robotics and artificial intelligence, AI. He highlights that the world's severe debt problem is exacerbated by an aging population and declining productivity. In his view, we're simply not producing enough to manage the massive debt burden naturally. This is where Pal sees AI and robotics as game changers, transforming the traditional GDP formula by introducing unlimited productive capacity and exponentially boosting productivity. He explains that AI has the potential to infinitely scale knowledge, while robotics can do the same for physical labor. Pal believes that the productivity surge from the exponential age could resolve the debt crisis and drive significant GDP growth, avoiding the need for a global collapse. However, he cautions that the world will look vastly different from today, which is why he stresses the importance of capitalizing on the opportunities in the cryptocurrency industry within the next 6 years, before the world becomes completely unrecognizable and all economic models, investment trends, and strategies become useless. In a recent video posted on his YouTube channel, Raoul Pal the Journeyman, the former Goldman Sachs executive, goes into detail about the coming exponential age, which he says will be fully operational by 2030, which leaves us only 6 years to make the best of the immense opportunities the cryptocurrency industry presents. Before we dive into the valuable insights from Raoul Pal's video, we'd appreciate it if you could take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you never miss out on content like this. Thanks for your support and enjoy the video.
So GDP growth in the magic formula is driven by population growth, productivity growth, and debt growth. So population growth in all of the developed world, including China, we've got falling, aging demographics. Many populations are now shrinking. The US, due to immigration, is just holding its head above water, but the rate of change of population is collapsing everywhere. So that means that the economic driver of population growth has disappeared. We've seen that in GDP because trend rate of GDP has been falling and falling and falling, and it's gone from, in the US, from like 4% to 1.75%. And across the rest of the developed world, it's fallen even further, in most cases below 1%, matching population growth collapsing in those regions. The other side of the equation is productivity growth. Productivity growth is basically units of output per kilojoule of energy, or in other words, what you get out of your cost of electricity. So if electricity is the kind of the energy that makes the world go round, the economic energy, then we need to see what we get out of that energy. So technology has been the big driver of productivity, but the problem is as populations get older, they become less productive. So it's really been a battle, and technology has not won that battle for quite some time. Then we've had debt growth, and I've talked extensively about debt growth. Debt growth basically stops in 2008, and all debt growth is now is servicing of old debts. So that economic engine's disappeared. If you think about the Chinese economic miracle, that was a massive population of, at the time, I think it was 1.1 billion people back in the mid-90s, And what they did was come into the global labor force. The economy of China opened up. That's a massive GDP push. Productivity, well, they built the roads, the railways, the power plants, and all of the stuff that makes China what it is today. That was a productivity boost. And then they increased debt as well. So we had a huge economic boom in China, which we're now paying back with aging population because of the one-child policy. And we've also got a huge problem on the debt side. How the hell do we solve this? You see, the everything code will just keep repeating ad infinitum, where we just have to keep debasing currency to try and offset the debt payments because GDP growth is not fast enough. So GDP is kind of the economic cash flow that pays for the debts. If GDP growth is low, interest rates need to be low, which is why the Fed are going to cut and all of those kind of things. But also, as GDP growth goes lower, debt growth keeps ballooning, and you have to keep refinancing all of this debt because there's not enough growth to grow your way out of the debt-based economy. But things started changing at the margin, and it really accelerated over COVID. Firstly, Amazon, I think, now employs more robots than it does humans. And this is a trend I've been pointing out for some time. Humans are cheaper replaced by robots that are more productive. They don't complain, they don't have unions, and over time, they're much, much cheaper. So the rise of the robots is just starting. We're seeing Tesla with its Optimus robot. We're seeing Figure. We're seeing Boston Dynamics. We're seeing a whole bunch of robotics companies. So humanoid robots really start to replace humans because they have dexterity. So they don't have to be for single tasks, much like machine learning was for single tasks, and AI is much broader. We're going to see multitasking robots. So that starts helping bolster the lack of humans in the population. But the robots will take longer to scale. Physical hardware, you have to manufacture it, or you have to design it. We're still at early stage of this. So yes, we will see Tesla robots and others coming into, let's say, factories, but in our houses, it's probably 10, 15 years away, but it's coming. Now, the big lever here is AI. AI is basically infinite human knowledge.
Pal vividly captured the importance and completely disruptive nature of the coming exponential age in a post on social media platform X, which reads, "My job as a macro analyst and entrepreneur is to live in the future and assess how the world might look and a probabilistic path to get there. In the next 6 years, I believe we will see artificial general intelligence, AGI, models accelerating in power and collapsing in costs. We will hit a golden age of technology productivity where infinite knowledge workers, artificial intelligence, enter the economy. What does an economy even look like in that world? What is GDP? What if someone trains AGI on global markets? They theoretically will capture all the value. What if everyone begins using AGI models to build businesses? The velocity of business formation and destruction will be unprecedented. Pal plans to make as much money as possible by investing in cryptocurrencies within the next 6 years and exit the markets before everything becomes unrecognizable by 2030. By the time the singularity rolls around, Pal plans to be at a lovely beach somewhere, sipping something exotic, and watching everyone trying and failing to make sense of this new world and economy. This is why he is so adamant that you cannot afford to f*** this up before the cryptocurrency market absolutely skyrockets from $2 trillion today to $100 trillion by 2030. Let's get back to the video.
What we're doing is we're using the everything code to just keep paying the debts to stall the system until this kicks in. There are two economic centers of gravity where this is really being worked on hard. Firstly, the US and China is hyper-focused on the AI. He who controls the AGI controls the world. Now, I think we'll have multiple AGIs, and whether they intersect and combine, we don't know that future. And I'm not concerned about that now. That's a topic for another day. Really, what I'm thinking about is the massive knowledge that comes from that. It's infinite humans, right? Infinite humans. So knowledge has zero scarcity. So therefore, it's zero in value. Everything that gets digitized goes to zero in value, which is one of the reasons why blockchain is so important, because you can create digital scarcity. But knowledge is going to go to zero in value. It's going to be like water. everywhere. What the does that mean? Well, I'll come on to a bit on that in a sec. And when you scale robots as well, again, this is more infinite humans. On the other side of the equation is productivity. So we talked about productivity being based around output per unit of electricity, let's call it. Now, people look at what Europe's doing and their drive towards green energy and say, what a ridiculous waste of resources. They're pumping money into this. It's all going to be burned. What a waste of time. It's not. In fact, it's probably one of the most important things, and both China and Europe are leading this charge. And in fact, China's leading it overall. You see, using renewable energy creates two outcomes. Firstly, it massively lowers the cost of electricity. Renewable energy shows an exponentiality in the cost. So cost keeps collapsing each year. So it's down sort of 99% over the last 20 years. And it'll keep driving lower and lower and lower as we get more effective in harnessing the sun's energy. The sun's energy, this is a massive nuclear reactor in the sky that's basically free to use, and it'll get cheaper and cheaper to capture for all of us. Now, right now, people say, well, yeah, but it doesn't scale. Right now being the words. Scaling means battery technology. Scaling means decentralized grids, not centralized grids. You don't need centralized grids to run cities. You can use decentralized grids, in which case solar, geothermal, and others scale massively because you just need smaller amounts in more places than a big amount in one place, which is where most people get this wrong. And the reason why we're doing that is because it's much more efficient to try and eventually get it from this massive nuclear reactor in the sky than it is from burning old trees and fossils from the past. It's actually a less efficient way of doing it, even though it's very energy dense. Energy density is less important if you've got abundant energy in terms of renewables. Obviously, nuclear is the other massive play here. Nuclear, once it ramps up, basically brings the cost of electricity to zero. So I think the marginal cost of electricity goes to zero. And I think Europeans and Chinese are driving it there, and they're driving it on purpose because there's no way out of this economic trap until we drive down the cost of electricity to negligible costs. And therefore it becomes a multiplier as the technology scales on the other side, i.e. we become more efficient at using that electricity cost. That's a huge multiplier. So we've got two massive multipliers coming. One is infinite humans. Two is the productivity miracle of cheap energy. Those two things completely change what economies look like. So if you think about that formula, suddenly if you double the amount of intelligence in the planet in 1 year, you can potentially, move GDP by 30% in a year if that intelligence is used. And when you drive down the cost of electricity and productivity rises, suddenly you start to get bizarre outcomes.
According to Powell, the singular obligation of the Fed and other central banks now is to prop up the baby boomer investor complex. Because if it goes, the whole system implodes again, and everything will be reduced to an extremely chaotic environment. Fortunately, everything can change in no distant time if Powell's predictions about the exponential age are correct. Then, there would be no global collapse, cryptocurrency prices will appreciate aggressively in the coming years, and AI, robotics, and renewable energy will help solve the world's GDP problems. It is hard to argue with many of the points Powell has made in this video. The world is changing fast. We are speeding head-on toward the exponential age where technology rules every sector. Investors who correctly position themselves now will be a crucial part of that future. What are your thoughts on Powell's exponential age thesis? Please drop your comments and observations in the comment section below. Also, ensure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Everything helps with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching.